back. We're still, we decided we're going to go ahead and keep talking baseball. We thought we were going to do one segment on baseball, but there's just so much to talk about. So we've decided to come back and do a rapid-fire segment with the Zen Master Mike Hemme. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 questions. We'll give you a minute each to answer it to kind of get the Zen Master's opinion so far baseball season on how everything's going. So kind of start us off, Zen Master, we're going to go and talk about, let's talk about first the biggest disappointment. Who is your biggest disappointment in baseball this year?
Well, I guess from that I'd have to look at it from a team standpoint. I got a couple, right? The Braves, fired their manager, Freddie Gonzalez. He really fell on the grenade. It was unfair. They have no talent. But as far as teams that are underachieving, I mean, gosh, you look at the Kansas City Royals playing at 500. That is a surprise. And then I think from a player standpoint, I think the biggest disappointment is Zach Greinke. He gets signed to this huge contract, goes to Arizona, and he hadn't brought it. He's getting lit up. So that he'd be one of my biggest disappointments from a player standpoint.
So Zach Greinke, biggest disappointment so far. Well, we mentioned biggest disappointment. What has been the biggest surprise so far this year?
Oh, without a doubt, the Philadelphia Phillies. The Philadelphia Phillies expected to be the cellar dwellers in the NL East. And we're talking about a team that is a half a game out of first, 6 games over 500. They have the 3rd best record, I'd say 4th, in the NL behind Washington, New York, and of course Chicago, who has the best record in baseball. And and I look to the American League. I mean, first of all, I don't know how Philadelphia's doing it. They have taken this plan where they were rebuilding, and they are way ahead of track. And Chicago, the Chicago White Sox, Chicago as a town is really going through a period right now where those fans, whether you're on the north side or the south side, you are enjoying it. Because if you're a Cub fan, you're 17 games over 500. And if you're a White Sox fan, you expected to have a losing season, and you're 10 games over 500 because you have 3 pitchers with sub-2-point ERAs.
In the city of Chicago right now, they're enjoying some baseball they haven't seen for a long time. But that begs the next question, Mike. What do you think so far is the top story in Major League Baseball with all the things that are going on this year?
Well, right now it's what we just talked about. Right now it's the Bautista Odor, brawl. That's one of the most interesting things. But I think we just talked about. I think about all the pitching dominance, and more than 10 pitchers with sub ERAs. Oh, I'll tell you one thing that I think is surprising is, I know I talked about him last time, but Clayton Kershaw is better than he was. He's getting better. We're talking about a guy with led the ERA 4 years out of the last 5 years, and he's better than he ever was. That shouldn't happen. And the same thing with Arrieta. He's better than last year. And he won the Cy Young. Amazing things happening.
Well, and, you mentioned amazing things happening. Well, let's talk about, your team out of the National League right now. Who is your favorite to come out of the National League if the playoffs were today?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, if you look at the playoffs today, Dave, you're looking at somebody from Central. I mean, you got to go Chicago and Washington, one of those 2 teams. I would have to say Chicago. And I don't really think that the American League has anybody to challenge them. But I think that's going to change because the Chicago Cubs cannot continue this pace. And, I'll add one thing more. I want to give props to a specific player that I think doesn't get the credit he deserves, and that's Nolan Arenado of the Rockies. He's got the best glove at third base. He's batting over 300. He's got 32 RBIs. He's got 13 home runs to lead the majors, and he's got an OPS of over 1,000. So he would be a player that I would look at as one of the most underappreciated players in baseball.
Yeah, Mike, I'm sorry I had to step out there. We're in our top secret location.
Almost had a fire.
Yeah, we had a top secret security system here that was going off and setting some alerts on it. But, we're going to go ahead and finish up this segment. Great talking baseball, of course. In a few weeks, we're going to kind of see how things play out, and it'll be time to start talking who's the favorite to have the National League, American League, and our favorites for the World Series so far. But we'll be right back here on Sports Talk is McKinney for our next segment.